evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater, the largest single-screen drive-in in the United States. We're certainly glad you could be with us this evening, and don't forget the concession stand is open with all kinds of great things to eat and drink.
.3 Mahoning Drive-In Radio, your old pal Virgil back once again for another exciting episode of the podcast. As you guys know, the only podcast dedicated to the love and revival of our beloved drive-in culture. Joined as always by my co-host and general manager extraordinaire, Mark. Say hello, my friend.
Hello!
And the season is in full swing. The wave has officially sucked us up, and we are about to hit the summer season, which we are so excited about. As soon as that summer hits, everybody has the drive-in on their mind. And the events are never ending as far as the announcements go, as far as these fan events go. It's really taken on a life of its own. And today we are going to focus in on our July 4th weekend, which we are so excited about. Having our good friends at AGFA return for the AGFA Triple Ripper, this year a Mystery Ripper. And we're upping our ante on Friday, July 4th proper, as we invite something weird to the table and to the family at the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. And today we are so excited to have on the podcast Lisa Petrucci, owner of Something Weird, and our good friend Ivan Peycheff, head of film restoration at AGFA, the American Genre Film Archive. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh, this is a dream come true. As we were talking about before we hit record, we are so blessed here with partnering with such like-minded companies and building our brand along with brands that really made us who we are. And that certainly was the case with AGFA over the last several years. But how did this exactly come about as far as our connection? I don't know who's best to tell the story, Ivan or you, Lisa.
Well, okay, last year I was at Chiller Theater Expo, and I hadn't been in quite a while. And I mean, that's like my home away from home. I mean, it had just been a matter of logistics why I haven't been able to come in so long. And I'm at the table, and Mark came over, right? Mark? And we just started talking.
I saw that you were going to be there. I was so excited because we'd corresponded a little bit through Messenger over the years, but now was my chance.
Well, it was funny because like you introduced yourself, and I think the first thing out of my mouth was, why haven't I been there yet? And because I'll tell you, I just have so much FOMO when I'm seeing what's coming up. And, you know, obviously I'm out here in Seattle, so it's kind of a trek to get to the Mahoning. Yeah, so we just kind of mentioned, oh, okay, well, you know, hopefully in the future we could do something together. And then you contacted me. So that's how this worked out. And, you know, obviously we're doing the weekend with AGFA, and Something Weird and AGFA are, you know, we're a team. So it was the perfect opportunity.
Yeah. So why don't you give people, you know, who aren't in the know a little bit of background of Something Weird and how you guys came to partner with AGFA and why this makes so much sense.
Something Weird Video was started in 1990 by my late great husband, Mike Franey. And prior to that, he had been managing punk rock bands in the 80s, and he was dealing comic books, and he had been a video pirate. It was like basically recording stuff off of television or taking, you know, big box VHS tapes and selling them at conventions and stuff. Well, right around 1990, he started finding actual film elements. Some of the first stuff that he found were like 16 millimeter girly loops from like arcade machines, but also some feature films. And I don't think he had ever thought about like actually transferring any of these films to, at that time, it would have just been tape. He decided, well, yeah, let's give this a try. And the, you know, first few, let's say, sexploitation titles out the gate just sold like gangbusters. So he was on to something and continued for the next 25 years, just finding as much lost, forgotten, bottom of the barrel films as he could and putting them out on home video. So, you know, back in the 90s, Something Weird got to be known for like, you know, our VHS catalogs, and around 2000, we started releasing very deluxe consumer DVDs with Image Entertainment. And that pretty much like set the bar for like what a lot of the boutique labels and other video companies do now, was what Something Weird was doing at that time. So, and it's always been a team effort. I mean, it was Mike, Frank Henenlotter, Jimmy Maslin, who owns the Herschel Gordon Lewis and Doris Wishman films. He used to have a video lab down in Los Angeles. I came on the scene around 94. I met Mike in 93 at Chiller, by the way.
Wow.
And, it was love. Yeah, I know. Well, love at first sight for him. Eventually, it was kind of caveman style. Dragged me from New York City to Seattle. And I just started helping out with, because at that time, I mean, the reason I even met Mike was I was interviewing him for a magazine and doing an article on exploitation and sexploitation films. And Dave Friedman had been his guest at Chiller that year. It was like the April 93 one. Right. We stayed in touch for about a year, and he's just like, you need to get out here. And, we're going to work together, and we just want to be together. And it seriously changed my life. I mean, because, it's funny. I always tell people I had this dream in the early 90s, like, all I want to do with my life is have a job that combines my love of film, popular culture, and art. And, here I am, how many years later, still doing this. And, it definitely is a dream come true. But, we've definitely had to adapt with all of the changes in technology over the years. And what's funny is if you look at a lot of the old Something Weird catalogs or VHS tapes that are out in the wild, the descriptions are so minimal and a lot of the information is so incorrect because, like, we didn't have the internet back in those days.
Writing them all up yourself, taking a shot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, we'd find a press book and, like, oh, that must be all the information. And come to find out, like, it wasn't correct. It was whatever. So yeah, it's just been a really interesting time to be involved with like genre film and exploitation cinema. How we got involved with AGFA was after Mike passed away in 2014. And I mean, it's funny, most people don't realize this. And I kind of like to tell people this, that Mike did not intend for Something Weird to continue. Like, he basically said to me, like, just let it go when you're done. And I'm like, well, how can I do that? This is also my job too. And I'm just deeply invested in this on so many levels. Yeah. So I kind of put word out there that I was looking for someone or some company or some entity to like work with if they wanted to come and be Something Weird. We might be able to discuss that. And Tim League from Alamo Drafthouse came up to Seattle and we had a discussion. He saw the archive and he's just like, okay, I would love to do all of this, but we're not going to be able to because it's just too much. And it's so eclectic. We had everything from like kiddie matinee films to XXX movies. So there's a lot of ground to cover. So he put me in touch with Josie Emba from AGFA. And, we kind of came up with a cherry-picked list of what they would like to have. And that was the beginning of this great relationship. And I just love working with Team AGFA. And it was fun to get Ivan on board because I knew him from way back when he was here in Seattle and he was programming at the Grand Illusion. So, yeah, it's funny how these things kind of come full circle. So,
yeah,
small world.
Well, we've always been called the punk rock alternative drive-in. And I always say Something Weird is that punk rock, releasing label, the boutique label that started it all. There wouldn't be these boutique labels that everybody loves, the, Severins and Vinegar Syndromes and Arrows of the world, if it weren't for Mike, you, and Something Weird. It's an incredible legacy, and we're so proud to be in line with you guys. I'm sure Ivan feels the same way, right?
Of course. I'm always thrilled at the fact that I get to work on the Something Weird films. I mean, like Lisa said, I knew her and Mike from Seattle. I met them back in 2010 at a screening of Bad Biology, and we all hit it off and became friends. And I was always obsessed with Something Weird. And then once I actually got to kind of see behind the curtain and see the actual collection and the house and everything like that, I was just like, oh my God. And when it came to be that I get to actually start working on these films and restoring them, it was just fantastic. And it just seemed like it was meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly the
Kismet.
way that we felt, when it came to filling out the weekend. We've been having a great time with the AGFA Triple Ripper the last 3 or 4 years. And the idea of tacking this on Friday was just like, oh my God, yes.
Oh, I'm super excited. Plus, I get to go someplace I've never been before.
Oh yeah, we love that, Well, we always call the Mahoning, it's the Mahoning family that seems to grow. All of our like-minded people gravitate to the lot, and our partnerships that seem to grow and take this thing even further. It's a wonderful thing. I mean, our whole preservation effort and getting weird and wild movies up on the big screen it's where our heart is. So bringing you guys in just makes total sense. So we can't really talk about the titles for the Triple Ripper because it is a mystery this year. But Lisa, why don't you lay on them the titles that you chose for Friday and why you chose them?
Well, we decided to show Teenage Gang Debs and She-Mob. And one of the reasons, first of all, I enjoy doing things that are kind of female-centric because, especially in the exploitation film world, it's usually the anomaly. It's not the norm. So, but also the two prints that we're going to show, I'm pretty sure that these may be the only existing 35 millimeter prints in existence.
That's awesome.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know of anyone else who has prints of either one of those movies. And when we found them, it was kind of like, and it was, well, in the case of Teenage Gang Debs, it was pretty early on, like in 1992, prior to me. So I don't even know the provenance of that film. I mean, Mike just had it, and it was already out by the time I was working for Something Weird. But as far as She-Mob, I do remember us just being in a big film depot, and somebody had given us carte blanche to like pull films and buy them, and that was one of them. And we had no idea what it was. And then usually what we would do with any of these things was like, we'd kind of get a vibe off like from a title if we weren't familiar with it, and then go home, see if we have a press book. We didn't have IMDb back then. We did have the American Film Institute catalog, however, which is always really helpful back then. Yeah, I love it because you get like these 3 lines describing the movie, and they have like some words that okay, I don't know what that word means, but I guess it's something to do. And lo and behold, when you transfer these films and you see what they actually are, it's kind of jaw-dropping. So in the case of Teenage Gang Debs, which is from 1966, that is a film that's pretty late in the JD kid movies that were popular during the 50s into like the very early 60s. But what makes Teenage Gang Debs interesting is that it definitely was like made as an exploitation film. A scene is added at the beginning to give it a sexploitation flavor.
Of course, right out the gate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So I'm going to come out and say so both films, the best words I would use to describe them are gritty and grimy, which are really great words, in my opinion. And with Teenage Gang Debs, you've got this straight ahead kind of bad girl story, almost the characters, almost like Lady Macbeth, and these kids that are in a Brooklyn street gang. And, just basically they're in inner politics and everything that goes along with that. But you just really feel like it's a time capsule because everything was on location as far as some of the sets, like you're in a greasy old diner bar, for the clubhouse. I did hear that they, did some of the dance scenes and stuff on a stage set to make it look like their clubhouse and whatnot. But there's also bikers from Queens and Brooklyn, which is pretty cool. They're actual bikers. And so it really is definitely looking at something that's circa 1966, teenage culture. And a lot of the actors and actresses who were in the film, it was their first film. So they basically just went to a casting call, showed up in their street clothes and started acting. So it's really special in that way. Then in the second movie, She-Mob, which is from 1968, that is just, I don't even know where to begin to describe that because it really falls into its own category. It's definitely sexploitation, that it was shot in Waco and Dallas, Texas. And they don't make movies like that anywhere else except in Texas during this time period. I mean, it's got some of the most unusual themes for adult films, but also just I don't know, there's something about those exploitation films that's pretty awesome, in my opinion, anyway. And She-Mob in particular, it was directed by Morris Levy, who, this was pretty much like his big movie that he ever did. Prior to that, I mean, he was basically known as an award-winning NBC News veteran. So he decides
made
he's
a
gonna
hard right into She-Mob.
yeah, I mean, like, who does that? And apparently, like, mortgaged his house and all this other stuff to make this film. And I'm wondering, just based on the storyline, and like, he must have seen like Faster Pussycat Kill Kill and been like, oh, I can make a movie like that.
I need to make a movie like
but I'm going to take mine way in another direction. And it was starring like women who worked at Jack Ruby's clubs in Dallas. And I mean, you know, just it is odd to say the least. And the characters are literally like out of an EC comic book. You know, you're looking at these people like this, like, did these people really exist? You know, so, but basically the premise of that story is that these women who they break out of prison and they just go on a spree where they kidnap this guy and they are trying to ransom him for money. And so I will also say that both movies, because they're exploitation films and sexploitation films, mid 1960s, they do have a quote roughy element to them where there is some assault, but in each film it's different genders are being assaulted. So in Teenage Gang Debs, there's definitely some cringy scenes, and I'll just put that out there if anybody has an issue with it. But then in She-Mob, you also have an assault, but it's done to a dude.
There you go.
I mean, and it's done in such a comical way that hopefully nobody will be offended.
Yeah, I think you'll be at the right place for a movie like that.
So
sure.
Definitely, these are MA-rated films.
Yes. Well, it's the reason that I love AGFA and I love Something Weird is there is this element of discovery in cinema that has kind of waned over the years now that streaming has become the prevalent source for a lot of people. The reason that physical media rules at the Mahoning is there is this element of discovery and the idea that you can still find and unearth these movies that you've never seen or heard of or experienced in a movie theater and transport yourself to a certain time. It's a wonderful thing for a movie lover and something that's so essential. It's just like flipping through those record racks to inspire your creativity. It's the same situation with the discovery of film and seeing these things on the big screen. So,
well, we did show Teenage Gang Debs about 3 years ago in Los Angeles at the New Beverly Cinema from the print, and it looked fantastic. So I'm really excited to see it on your big, giant drive-in screen.
Well, it's going to look even better because I cleaned it recently because to let a little secret slip, we're going to be putting it out. So.
Whoa, there you go. You got the news, the dish right here.
Yeah, breaking news. Yeah, this Blu-ray release from AGFA and Something Weird for this Teenage Gang Debs is really something special. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, we really put our heart and soul into it. And since it's one of my favorite movies, I definitely invested a lot of time and energy into making it just right.
I got a weird little story about Teenage Gang Debs real quick. About, this was sometime last summer, I think. Completely random, totally out of the blue. One of the actresses from the film showed up at AGFA's office, just totally out of the blue. Apparently, her granddaughter's boyfriend had discovered that Teenage Gang Debs was a bit of a cult film and showed this to her. And I'm not exactly sure how they ended up at our building because it's not really a place like the public can go to, but it was just very weird. And I happened to be outside, when they showed up, and she just introduced herself as being in the film. And it was a very weird
surreal
experience. And then a few months later we're like, okay, we're gonna do that one, we're putting it
out. So from that time, so I even got her information, her phone number and her email. Her name is Sandra Kane, and she's plays the woman who Annie, who is she used to date one of the guys in the gang, and she has a very sad scene in the movie, but it's very dramatic. And one day, a few months ago, when we were working on this project, I'm like, all right, I got to give this woman an email. And it's always strange when like you're doing a cold call or email or whatever, and I don't know what she's going to say or do. Literally within an hour, I get a phone call, and this old lady gets on the phone, and she was a hot ticket. I mean, I tell you. I mean, she's 80. Well, she was 83 now. She was 82 when Ivan met her. And by the way, she had a little crush on Ivan. I'm going to put that out there. She did tell me that.
But I mean, don't we all really?
So anyway, we start talking for the next 3 hours. And just this woman had her mind was like a steel trap. She remembered everything. And it was one of her first films. She had been an aspiring actress in New York. She was from Queens. She was friends with some of the people who were also in the movie. I guess they all came to the same casting call. But she gave us a lot of like really good insights, so that they are actually in the liner notes booklet that comes with the Blu-ray. And but we've now become friends. I mean, we talk pretty frequently. And she's so excited that, I mean, she was talking about, maybe I'll come down for the screening. And I'm like, Sandra, you're 83. No, we'll do something near you. Like, I'm sure we can like do something where the Alamo Draft House is or someplace, so that this old woman can go watch her movie,
Oh, that's so mad.
On her home turf. But yeah, she was awesome and really cool, and just gave us just so many insights into things. And she ended up going on to like have a theater career, and being married to a guy who was mobbed up. And I mean, her life story was just fascinating.
She's got a book in her for sure.
Indeed.
Amazing. Well, Ivan, you've been a supporter of the Mahoning, and AGFA's been such a supporter of the Mahoning for many years now. Any listeners, I can't believe we haven't had you on the pod yet, but any listeners who aren't familiar, do you mind giving a little short breakdown of what AGFA is, represents, and does?
Sure, yeah. AGFA is an acronym for the American Genre Film Archive. Started about 15 years ago. And with the original purpose was basically to have sort of a large collection of film prints and trailers and snipes and things like that the Alamo Draft Houses could access and things like that. And then they would also started renting out to other theaters. And then in 2014, I believe it was, the decision was made to do a Kickstarter to get a film scanner to start scanning prints in the archive. And out of that, our Blu-ray label was born, starting with something weird title, Bat Pussy. Or no, I'm sorry, Zodiac Killer. Yes, another something weird title.
Perfect, yeah.
Which, funny enough, we are screening at our Patreon virtual show tomorrow night.
Wow.
Cool.
With
Nice.
Chris Pajali giving the lowdown on how and why that movie was made. And we may even have like the son of the director joining us. So that's wild that was such an early release.
Whoa, that's
Very
great.
Cool. So yeah, then the home video label came out of that, and Something Weird was a huge part of helping us get that off the ground. And so what we do now, essentially what AGFA has turned into, is a nonprofit film archive / home video label / theatrical distributor. A lot of people probably don't know that in addition to being a film archive and preserving film and doing the Blu-rays and stuff, we are also, I think, the largest independent film distributor in North America. Maybe something like, at the very least, we have more titles and DCPs available than most other distributors. And we handle many of the other boutique labels like Vinegar Syndrome and Arrow, Severin, Umbrella, and so on and so forth. So a lot of the repertory genre programming that you see in theaters across the country comes from us.
God's work. I mean, I said it. The Mahoning and what we do would not be possible if it weren't for AGFA and the independent archives that support us. It's really a blessing to have you guys in our corner, and the fact that we get to do this event together every 4th of July weekend, like I said, is just such a dream come true and a proving ground for our growth here at the Mahoning. So,
Well, I'm just glad you guys said yes when I asked if we could do this 4 years
oh my
ago.
gosh, it's honestly one of the most fun nights that we have on the lot. Our customers love it. Mark, why don't you break it down a little bit on some of the highlights that AGFA has brought to us over the last couple of years?
Well, I mean, didn't we start off one of the shows with Double Agent 73 one year?
That's right.
That was the very first movie, yeah.
On arguably the largest outdoor screen on the East Coast.
Oh dear.
Those are
It is.
very deadly weapons on a screen that size.
There was a
Passion dudes.
after that screening, I'm totally blanking on his name, and I'm so sorry because he might be there this weekend. But after Deadly Weapons, this gentleman there was just completely blown away by it, and in the most amazing, like, New Jersey / kind of New York accent, just kept going, Chesty Morgan. Oh,
That's probably Carl.
hey, Chesty Morgan. It was awesome.
Oh,
Like all night long.
legend of the lot, without a doubt.
And what's great is that you can see our screen from the local Walmart that's perched upon a hill. So anybody
really?
who might have been just glancing in the direction of our screen, when you're dealing with, you know, the size of a Chesty Morgan from that far away, there's no question what you're looking at on that screen.
Well, that's amazing that you say they can see that from the Walmart, because last year, I think it was, during the intermission reel I put together, I had a trailer for Gums in there, and there's a big, just straight on shot of a guy's dong, huge on your screen. So that makes me happy to think that people at Walmart could see that.
Yes.
Everything's bigger at the Mahoning. So yeah, it's been just the multiple years of these great triple features with these great trailer reels that you curate and intermission reels. And there's this Jaws 2 trailer that has become a sort of legend that blew my mind the first time I saw it. I was screaming, laughing, and it was like, you said you got it in some collection. It's like somebody decided to do this editing exercise between the trailer for Jaws 2 and a car commercial and God knows how many other things, but it's this work of just anarchy, cinematic anarchy, and it's a highlight of the show every year.
Yeah. It's like 20 some years ago, I got a box of trailers off of eBay, and it had a bunch of extra trailers in it that weren't on the list, and one of them was labeled Jaws 2, and I just randomly put it on a show at the theater I was programming at once, and saw this insane thing. I'm like, what the fuck is going on the screen? And I have no idea who did it or why or anything like that. It's a complete mystery, but it's truly awesome. It's like I have a pretty large film collection myself, and it's like one of my favorite pieces.
Brings the house
entire
down.
collection. It'll be playing again this year. So.
Yes, I love it.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yes,
it's so true, and that's exactly the style of a Mahoning show. Like, the trailer reels are curated, all the madness that happens pre-show is curated.
Similarly for us, we have these Patreon screenings once a month, 35 millimeter during the time we're open, and then year round we do the virtual shows that I referenced. And years ago, when I was buying trailers, I found this 35 millimeter advertisement for Evening Tides Waterbeds, which was a Chicago late 70s waterbed company, and it is just the most hilarious series of stills cut to a disco beat, and it has become a cult item on our lot for our Patreon members, and they've made their own hats and T-shirts with the logo on it. And
it takes on a life of its own.
And you have to. I don't let it out anywhere else. It never plays anywhere except for the members of that organization. But it's just precious.
That is very cool. I love stuff like that.
It is this celebration of cinema on the lot, and the 4th of July celebration with you has become such a highlight. Like I said. I don't want to take up all the time. I want to pass it on over to Mark with some questions. But before, I'm very curious on both of your guys' history with drive-ins, being that we're the drive-in podcast. Were you guys lucky enough to have the drive-in in your childhood?
Yeah, actually, there was a drive-in, the Snow King drive-in, like just a couple blocks from my house growing up. It was one of those situations where you could, either go there or actually like see the screen if you perched yourself up, like, on the other side of the lot, like, kind of one of those things out of a movie where, the kids sitting on the roof with the radio watching the drive-in screen.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience with drive-ins, was the one right near our house.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Seattle area drive-ins, because Mike Franey was working at drive-ins when he was a teenager. He lived in Bellevue, Washington, and there was one called the Bell Kirk Drive-In, and he was the guy with like the red flashlight. He'd walk around directing traffic, or
it's lot guys, yeah.
Or with the flashlight, basically putting it in people's cars to make sure that they weren't being lewd or whatever. I mean, probably just for his own kicks, but so, I mean, I was meant to do this job, okay, because of my drive-in experiences as a kid. So I'm like 7 years old. We live near a lot of different drive-ins in Massachusetts. I came from Northeast Massachusetts, and one of my earliest childhood memories is being brought to see Night of the Living Dead at a drive-in in Medford, Massachusetts. And, who brings their 7-year-old to see that? Or I think they assumed I'd be sleeping. Oh, well, it obviously did. Yeah. And over the next few years, I would be brought to all of these very inappropriate films, but like some of my most memorable and favorites, and even to this day are still like the triple feature with Undertaker and his pals, The Corpse Grinders, and The Embalmer. I was at that show at the Linway Drive-In. Yes. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, but definitely drive-ins had a big thing to do with my childhood. But then as a teenager in the late 70s and up until the early 80s, like we would just go with the group of us, and go see the Friday the 13th movies and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, drive-ins have always been a part of my life, and I got really sad when they stopped operating. And Mike and I were fortunate when we got together. There was still a couple of drive-ins in the area, and one was called the Puget Park Drive-In, which is in Linwood, Washington. And we would take the kids there to go see, it was mostly first run movies and stuff, but just the fact that we could still go to the drive-in made us both so happy. And then when that closed, they stayed open as a swap meet for a while, but it was never the same after that.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, you've seen the culture change over the years. And now that we are down to so few of us, under 300 now, it really is this gift that we've been blessed with, this voice. And it's our honor to really shout it from the rooftops, because even locally, we'll be wearing our Mahoning drive-in gear, and people will be like, oh, there's still drive-ins around. It's this thing that unless people know, hey, this is still a thing that's worth supporting and seeking out, it becomes that invisible thing, that if you're not paying attention, it just kind of blends into the landscape for a lot of people.
Sadly, in a lot of places, like in Washington, I don't think there even are any more drive-ins in Washington.
What's weird? There's one up on Whidbey Island.
Oh, really?
I was there last year, just like, going to Whidbey for the day, and I see a drive-in sign, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And it's like, it's still operating.
Weird.
And I mean, I don't know. It's a very tiny little island. I can't imagine very many people going to it. It also had a go-kart track. So I guess you have to kind of have a multi-use if you're still going to be a drive-in nowadays. And there was also the one on the way out to like Ocean Shores in Aberdeen that had still been operating a few years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't go out there
now, right?
I think so. I haven't been out there in forever, but I assume so.
Yeah, there's just something so special about the drive-in culture when you get to experience it as a kid, like all of us did. It captures your heart, and it really does make this larger than life appeal of cinema and movie going just embed itself into your heart. And we feel very, very blessed to be able to carry on that torch and continue to raise the bar for what a modern day drive-in is in 2025. The fact that we're playing these titles is pretty telling. So
Well, what you're doing is so special. I mean, it's, people know about this drive-in all over the country. I mean, all over the world because of the programming that you're doing. And, when I mention to people that I'm like, I don't have to explain what it is. Like, they know what you're doing, which is great. I mean, anybody in our orbit anyway. I mean, the average normie is not going to. But, if you're into genre film, exploitation film, you know about the Mahoning Drive-In.
That's so beautiful. Mark, I'll turn it on over to you if you have some questions for the team.
Well, first of all, I have to say, obviously, I'm a huge fan of both of your organizations. My association or knowledge of something weird, funny enough, has a drive-in connection. And I started buying those Dusk to Dawn drive-in Trashorama tapes that were the 2-hour trailer compilations way back when. Yeah. That was 2 hours of amazing trailers plus an audio cassette of another 60 to 90 minutes of radio spots. And I fell head over heels at that point. The, hey, folks, it's intermission time tapes, and then the individual features and, every genre, as you mentioned, including fun in Balloon Land. But I didn't.
Sorry. I didn't expect to hear that.
I just wanted to show my cred. My SWV.
Oh, you earned it.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Is that ever a feature film? For both of you, if you could describe in one word the cinematic miracle that is Bat Pussy.
Oh.
Bonkers.
Gross.
Oh. Come on.
No, I mean, I like it, but, it's a little gross.
Hell yeah, but that's part of its charm.
And I'd like to dangle a carrot to the world that if, our July 4th want to see something weird show is successful enough, perhaps one day that will grace our screen and probably get us shut down. But so speaking of drive-ins, for both of you, if you had, what would your favorite drive-in snack bar item be?
Oh, you know what? It's funny. And I used to eat these when I was a kid. They have the shrimp rolls. Those.
Yes.
Yeah, those.
People ask about those all the time because our intermission ads have them in it,
Salty, fishy nastiness. Yeah.
That's funny that you say that because I put a Flavo's shrimp roll snipe in the intermission reel for this
year. Great minds.
Yeah. But for me, my favorite drive-in food is currently, because, we have a couple drive-ins here in Texas, are corn fritters. It's just like a little fried olive dough and corn.
Huge down
there. Delicious. Yeah.
We do a lot of interviews with fellow drive-in operators for the show here. And that's always one of the things that's most interesting to me is the regional delectable delights. The things that I'd never heard of a pierogi until I started going to Pennsylvania drive-ins. And it's just like regionally different food items or different specialties. There was one drive-in we talked to that it was basically a blueberry snow cone with some red sauce, and they called it a bloody Smurf. And just the weird things that I wonder if they're showing that with the upcoming Smurf film or not. There's just the odd things that the various drive-ins would have. And, I love drive-ins. I love our drive-in. I mean, I started most of us did. We started as customers at the Mahoning, and we just were there so often. They said, hey, could we pay you to do something? But I wish that I could go to more in different regions. Like, I'm from New Hampshire originally, so there's still a couple near where I used to live.
Oh yeah, near the Weirs Beach still has their operating drive-in in Laconia.
They're still there. I've never been to that one. Milford drive-in I used to go to a lot because I lived in the Keene area, and that was like 45 minutes. And then the most interesting to me was the Northfield drive-in, which is still open, and the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire runs through the drive-in lot.
Oh, wow.
They built the projection booth in such a way that the projectionist was he was working in the state that had more lax union rules. Which I just thought was...
Because they actually gave that some thought.
Yeah. Yeah. If we have him stand here, we can pay him less. That's great.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there's still a few here and there, and it's just something that, like, if you were talking about you're traveling somewhere and you see one, it's like I move heaven and earth to make sure that I can go there and experience it, even if I'm trespassing during the day, to just see the layout and what condition it's in. Speaking of drive-ins, this is a question we ask everybody. Putting aside the shows that you're actually working on for us, if you could craft a drive-in double feature or a weekend of films to your taste, regardless of the financial ruin that might ensue for our organization at the Mahoning, what movies would you play?
I'll let you go first, Ivan.
So you don't have to be shackled by the chains of AGFA or something weird. You can have your dream, Harry Belafonte weekend, or your dream Stevens weekend.
Man, that's tough. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably really love to see a double feature of Head and 200 Motels on your screen. That's what I would
cool.
do.
We have run Head. We did a monkey show a couple of years ago, and
I saw that.
It was a show that I designed. I'm a huge fan, and we were able to track down 35 millimeter prints of the episodes. So we ran 3 episodes, some of which had original 1969 commercials in them, and then followed by Head on film, and it was glorious. But
that's awesome.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I really can't. I mean, if I think about it, it's like, you are already doing a lot of the programming that would be my dream programming. I mean, I'm not just saying that to toot your horn, but like those John Waters events that you do, like those are fantastic. And just, the fact that you're doing it. So, a folk horror double feature, that would be fun to go see.
Yes.
Like Blood on Satan's Claw and I don't know, some other film of that nature.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give you guys the floor. You kind of teased an upcoming release, but is there anything that you guys would want to promote or tease potentially that's upcoming?
Well, with Something Weird, a lot of people know that there's been changes happening with the company. It's been about almost 12 years since Mike passed away. And in 2024, I decided that it was going to be the end of doing like the in-house DVD-R manufacturing and offering downloads because I need my life back. I'll come right out and say it. Doing the day-to-day drudgery of customer service and mail order and stuff, it was not what I signed up for. I really enjoy writing about film and working on package design and brainstorming with all the teams that I work with, and stuff. So that was a pretty big deal for us to pull the plug on that part of the business. But it didn't mean it was disappearing. Sadly, though, a lot of my customers are on the older side and they're like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, there'll be a streaming channel and there'll be more Blu-rays coming out. And I'm like, I don't have a Blu-ray player. I'm like, well, they're really cheap. Go buy one. So and the funny thing is, I literally still say we when I talk about Something Weird. And there was a point in time when we had about 10 or more employees, in our heyday. Something Weird is just me. Literally, I wear all the hats, I'm the
Just little Lisa.
Exactly. And so I've been spending the last few months working on our Something Weird channel, which is under the umbrella of another channel called Cult Picks. And this is something that's been years in the making. We were talking about doing this, but basically what I wanted to do was recreate what we had with the Something Weird website with, it's funny because if people go to the Something Weird website, why don't you get a little bit more modern, or no, we like it janky.
You don't get it.
it's that whole punk rock mentality about everything.
That's right.
So when we started designing this new channel, I said I really want it to reflect the history of Something Weird. This isn't something newfangled. This is basically it's newfangled as far as the format, but as far as the content, no, not so much. So we did spend the last few months just kind of, with web development and designing things and getting the right graphics and all this other stuff. And we just literally had the launch. And when I say we, I can say we because I'm working with Cult Picks, who are some of my newer partners, this fantastic group. One of the guys' name is Rickard Gramfers. He does Club Super 8 in Scandinavia, which is basically like a mirror image of Something Weird, but over there. And his partner, Patrick von Sikowski. And we've just been working together. And this is just another thing I'll bring up before I can finish the story, is the last decade of the partnerships that Something Weird has developed with, not just AGFA, but with Severin Films, Kino Lorber, Vinegar Syndrome, Distrib Pix, Alternative Cinema, even Mondo Macabro. It's just been wonderful to be able to collaborate with people who have so much talent and enthusiasm for this material. And it also just does bring it like a new voice to it. Because,
Yeah.
I don't expect that you all to just do what we did. I want you to take the material and run with it, is basically my attitude, with all of the labels that I work with. And they've just been doing a really incredible job. But with the channel, we just launched it a few weeks ago, and it's somethingweirdchannel.com, which is also part of cultpix.com. It's just a browser-based channel at this point. They are working on, there's a couple of apps, like I guess Amazon Fire and Apple TV. There you can get Cultpix through those, but
Cool.
There's no Roku. Just saying that right now, no Roku. Not yet. But yeah, so I'm really excited about that. But also, there's so much cool stuff coming up in the next, it's funny. We look at our advanced schedule for Blu-ray releases, and all of these companies plan 2 years in advance, and I'm really excited about what's coming up because some things I've been kind of chomping at the bit, I really want to get this out there, like Teenage Gang Devs, for instance. And we have, so there's going to be some really kind of big news on the horizon, which I can't divulge just yet, with one of our major players in the Something Weird world as far as their library and all that kind of stuff. And, just lots of interesting opportunities. And like I said, it's just been so fun working with everybody and just seeing where their passions are and okay, well, go do your thing with that. And like I said, and I've been really enjoying just diving deep into, writing essays and scanning archival materials and the parts of the job I've always enjoyed. So Something Weird isn't going anywhere, even though we may not be doing things the way we used to. And the only other thing I'll say is that I will be launching a new Something Weird retail website. If anybody goes to somethingweird.com right now, all you're going to see is a landing page. Mama's been busy. So I can't do it. I have to do things little baby steps at a time. So that'll be happening sometime in July when I get back from this event. So
Very exciting. How about you, Ivan? Anything on the horizon?
Well,
Never ending, right?
Yeah, it's never ending. That's for sure. I can't say too much. Like I said, Teenage Gang Devs will be coming out soon. We are going to be doing some more UHD releases in the future, not too far future.
that pussy.
And we have something coming up that's a pretty major release for us. We're all very excited about it. It's a very influential piece that has been unavailable until now.
Whoa.
That's all I'm going to say.
Always love it. Well, just like you said, Lisa, the partnerships are really what fuel our fire here of late at the Mahoning. Being able to tag team with such like-minded entities like you guys. And more importantly, the Mahoning has become a preservation ground. We're the last remaining full-time 35mm drive-in in the entire world. And we take great pride in the fact that every single night that we run is a preservation effort. And just like we say on the radio every night, if it weren't for houses like us, 35mm would be a dead medium. If it weren't for companies like you guys doing the work, it truly would be a lost art. A lot of these films would just be lost to the world. So thank you so much for your endless efforts to preserve these films and all that you guys do, truly.
Oh, well, thank you guys for providing a place for our efforts to be seen.
Totally, yeah. You have to have bodies to come look at films. I don't think there's anything quite like, the actual like live experience of going to a drive-in or being in a theater and seeing these movies. I mean, like, yes, we can all stream this stuff or watch our physical media collections and whatnot in the, in the quiet of your own home, but being in a place where like you're with other people who are just so enthusiastic and psyched about film, it really does like make it a really exciting experience for everybody.
Yeah, that community, we say it, there's people that travel from all over the country to come and experience these prints up on the big screen because there's nowhere else to get it. And I think a big sell for a lot of these people is that communal, familial atmosphere that you don't really get at the big box indoor outings anymore. It brings back this midnight movie excitement back to cinema. And we feel so honored to be kind of this magnet for strange and cinephiles that gather on our lot every single weekend. And the weekend we're doing with you guys is just such a dream come true. And I know there's people listening to this podcast from all over the place. If you have the opportunity to come out and celebrate 4th of July weekend with us, I highly recommend it.
Yes, the lineups for the Triple Rippers are only exclusive to the Mahoning. They will never play in their full form in any other theater again. So if you want to see these shows, you have to come to the Mahoning and see them.
Yeah, and I was also surprised at just how many people reached out to me from the Northeast, because I'm originally from that area, and just saying, "Oh, we're coming," and they're like, anywhere from like New England, New York, New Jersey,
oh yeah,
Maryland, not just Pennsylvania. It's like all over the place. I'm like, oh, great! So it's going to be like old home week for me.
Oh, that's so great. And that's what we love. Like, that's why this 4th of July choice made so much sense. We have Zombie Fest on Labor Day weekend and Camp Blood on Memorial Day weekend. It's certain ones just really make sense as this kind of holiday outing. I know people are going to definitely be staying on the lot and making a whole weekend of it, which we love. So
now, when you've done 4th of July screenings before, do you see fireworks from around the area?
Yeah, we have a airport right behind us, and we've always dreamed of putting on a fireworks show, but we don't really have to worry about it because we're so open. You can see all the fireworks in the area beyond the screen or up against the mountain. We'll certainly have some fun that weekend on screen as well.
Indeed.
As you leave the theater, folks, please be careful. Don't let this happen to your car. Be sure to remove the speaker before you leave. If you should accidentally pull a speaker loose, please turn it in at our snack bar or box office. Thank you.
Well, before we let you guys go, can you let the folks know where they can find you, whether it's social media or online? I know you gave the website, Lisa, but...
So for Something Weird, and it's like we also changed the name last year from Something Weird Video to Something Weird, so it's a little bit more of like an umbrella for anything we decide to do in the future. Yeah. SomethingWeird.com, SomethingWeirdChannel.com. You can watch Something Weird on YouTube for free, some things. It's kind of like a lot of the nostalgia content that we have, the quote safe stuff. You can go to the free YouTube channel. It's just like the word somethingweird.com spelled out. And then there's also something called the somethingweirdarchive.com, which is our old janky website where you can just go look at stuff. You can't buy anything, but you can see what we used to do. So there's links to all the partners and projects that are going on and that kind of thing. So and then we're also on Instagram and Facebook. I do not do the TikTok or the X.
Yeah, we're there with you. How about you, Ivan?
Well, for AGFA, you can find us on the internet at AmericanGenreFilm.com. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, and we just launched a Patreon recently.
Awesome!
So you should check that out.
Heck yeah, you just sold a subscription right here. I love it.
Nice.
Well, thank you guys again for making the time for the podcast, not just for us, but for the loving audience that will be so excited to hear this. If you guys are on the fence hearing this of, I don't know, should I come out and spend 4th of July? Just drop what you're doing, get your tickets, head on out to the Mahoning and get weird with us because it is going to be a ball. All right, I think that does it here for us. 35 millimeter for life and weird for life. On that note, Jeff, take it away, my friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for coming out tonight to the Mahoning Drive-In Theater. We hope you'll come back and see us again real soon. The exit is on the right-hand side of the screen at the front of the field, and most importantly, have a very safe trip home. Good night and God bless you.